Happy Friday and welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma and today I'm going to be doing a Balancing the Books video. You know what these are by now. This is when I add up all of the books that I put onto my TBR this month versus all the books that I read or DNF'd or got off my TBR this month, and I balance them out. But this year I've been upping the ante and making sure that I actually have -5 books every month because I'm getting my TBR getting smaller and smaller. So let's do it. At the beginning of July, I had 40 books on my TBR, which means that my aim for the end of July is to have 35. So let's start by adding on all of the books that I hauled during July. I got The Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton. This is the one that I got for work, and there will be a book break video coming up on it soon, and I've already read it, so this doesn't end up adding to my TBR. This was wonderful. I had only ever read one Kate Morton book before, years and years ago, and enjoyed it but hadn't fallen in love with it. But I know that people just absolutely love Kate Morton as an author, so I was really intrigued to read this one, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. It was quite a lot to keep track of. It's basically set in this house, this manor house, and it spans like 150 years, all of the different people who've lived in the house, and it goes back and forth. So there's a lot of puzzle pieces to try and keep track of, but it's so worth it because they all fit together so nicely. I just absolutely loved it. I bought myself a book, which was An Age of License by Lucy Knisley. This I bought on Emma Tobias's recommendation for the Book Buddy-a-thon. I did a whole vlog of that, by the way, which I will link below. Go and watch it. It's a really just good fun video, I think. I was in Greece for the Book Buddy-a-thon, so there was lots of just lovely views and it was a really lush place to do a readathon. So I did already read this one for the Book Buddy-a-thon and again really enjoyed it. I definitely want to get more books by Lucy Knisley now. Another one that I got from work is A Simple Favourite by Darcy Bell, and I was really intrigued to read this one because there's a movie coming out with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. I don't know if you've seen the trailers, but they look so mysterious. Doesn't really give you much clue about what the movie's actually about. So I was like, I need to read this book. So I read it and I really enjoyed it. Emma and I buddy read it together. She did not like it. I think she gave it like a 2 out of 5. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And it was bizarre. Like, this took twists I was not expecting and the characters are all so unlikable. But I loved that. I really enjoyed that in a thriller. So I think this is really good fun. I'm really excited to see that movie, especially because I just love both of these actresses. Another one from work is My Secret YouTube Life. This is another one that I have already read. I enjoyed reading it because it's about YouTube and stuff, and obviously I love being part of that world. I don't think I was quite the right age group reader for this. Okay, so that's still 40 books that I'm on at the moment. That's now going to change. So this is a book my mum bought. This is Social Creature by Isabella Burton. Oh, Tara Isabella Burton. So sorry, her name is Tara Isabella Burton. Over on Book Break, I did a video on visiting independent bookshops, and one of the booksellers recommended this book. So my mum went and bought it, but then didn't like it, so she gave it to me. I haven't read it yet, but it sounded really good. From everything that the bookseller said, I was like, that sounds amazing. I'm like, it's so glittery and fun. So yeah, that one's on... Oh, ow! That one's on my TBR. I grabbed a proof for work of a thriller that looks really fun. This is called Give Me Your Hand by Megan Abbott. I actually haven't read any Megan Abbott yet, but people love her, so I'm really excited to try this one. Haven't read it yet. If anyone has Megan Abbott thoughts, let me know. I know that loads of people have read other books by her. And then finally, while I was in Greece, my mum was reading Interpreter of Maladies, which is a short story collection by Jhumpa Lahiri, and I told her how much I love Jhumpa Lahiri, so she finished it and then gave it to me. I've only read the first 2 at the moment, so it doesn't count as being read, it's still on my TBR. Which brings my total now to 43, so now let's see what else I read. You might remember from my last Balancing the Books that I had 2 books that I was choosing between to get rid of, and that was The Light Between Oceans and The Humans, and I actually ended up keeping both of them. Sneaky, but I explained it all in the last video. I had justification, it all made sense. So I ended up starting both of those, but I actually DNF'd The Humans, so that was one that was off my TBR. It was fine, I've tried Matt Haig a few times now. I think he's just not quite the writer for me. There's something about his style that doesn't gel with me. I didn't hate it, I just felt meh about it, and I got about halfway through and then was like, I think I've got what I'm going to get from this book. So that one went. And then I also read The Light Between Oceans and loved it. Really loved it. It sparked so many conversations I kept having with people, telling about the plot and talking about the morality of what we would and wouldn't do. I just thought it was great. I'm going to go watch the movie now. That's it here, by the way. Forgot to pick it up while I was talking about it. Okay, I also read a book called A History of Love, or The History of Love, rather, by Nicole Krauss, which again I really enjoyed. I'd never heard of this before, but then when I updated my Instagram, a lot of people commented saying they loved it. It was really sweet. I thought it was wonderful writing, and the main character in this, Leo Gursky, just heartbreaking. At the beginning of the book, he's this lonely old man who just wants to be seen every day. He's worried about not being seen, so he deliberately will embarrass himself or make a scene in a public place just so that he knows that somebody saw him and noticed him that day, which, oh my god, the concept of that just broke my heart from the beginning. It then gets a bit happier than that, but really lovely book. I then read Vox by Christina Dalcher, which is a really, really interesting premise, a world where women can only speak 100 words every day, and the first 2/3 of it was so good. It sparked such interesting ideas and questions in my head about how you raise a daughter in that world where you have to teach her that she's not allowed to speak because it will cause her to get severely electrocuted. So you have to protect her by teaching her not to speak, but how do you also teach her to value herself and value her voice, and also to teach your sons to respect you? Oh my god, just terrifying ideas. And I really, really liked the way that she tied it into real life events as well. There were obvious allusions to Trump's presidency, like the president in this was elected on the 8th of November, so it's obviously supposed to be parallels, obviously a more extreme version. And it could have been so good, but it just slightly went off track a bit, I thought. For the last third of the book, I just slightly lost interest, and that's a real shame because I thought this was going to be mind-blowing. I read The Talented Mr. Ripley, which I buddy read with Archie, and we both really, really enjoyed it. This is a film that I love and have seen repeatedly. Last year I read Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart and was a bit disappointed by it, which was a shame. It was a really cool premise, it was very feminist, there were so many things that I loved about it, but seeing as I'd seen The Talented Mr. Ripley so many times, there was just nothing kind of surprising or new about it. But I then realised I'd never actually read The Talented Mr. Ripley, so I now have, and I thought it was so good. It's different from the book. The plot is basically the same, but the character felt very different to me. I thought he was a sadder character. In the film, I never felt like the talented was ironic, whereas in the book, it felt like it was this slightly ironic. He is obviously very talented, he's very good at imitations and stuff, but there was just a sort of sadder slant on it, and I really, really liked that, and Archie really liked it as well. I read Strong Poison by Dorothy L. Sayers, which Emma Tobias gave me as a present, and this was such a fun read. So this is one of the Lord Peter Wimsey detective novels. He's not a detective, he's just a gentleman who likes solving crimes. This is the first one I've ever read, and it was really fun. And I was reading on holiday with my family, and what was so funny is that I was talking to my dad about it, and he was like, Lord Peter Wimsey, I know that name. His dad used to read those books, and my dad had never read one, but he was like, I recognise that name because my dad loved them so much. So after I finished reading it, I gave it to him to read, and he was just laughing out loud, reading bits of the book out to me, even though I was like, I know, I just read it. So I'm glad that he enjoyed it so much, and it was really good fun. I read Headscarves and Hymens by Mona Al-Tahawi, and this book was another 5-star for me. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Really, really intense, not an easy read, but I was surprised, I think, at how much it taught me. Because I would have thought, while I knew it was going to be a really interesting book, particularly debates around the headscarf, I've heard so many of them, so I wasn't expecting that I could read a book that would feel so new and that would teach me so much more about this issue, but this did. We talked about it in my book club and we all felt like it had added a lot to the conversation that we currently have and had changed our perspective a lot. I wouldn't say I agree 100% with everything in it, you never can agree 100% with everything in a book, but I thought it was absolutely fascinating and really, really thought-provoking and really sad. So then finally, the last one I've got is A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. This was one I've been wanting to read for a long time. I bought it last year, almost exactly a year ago. I adored Beartown. That was the first Fredrik Backman that I read, and it's one of my favourite books ever, really. I just absolutely adored it. So it's always a bit nerve-wracking going back and reading something else that author has written, but this one I've heard so much about, people really, really love it, and I can see why. I thought it was wonderful. It's just about this rather grumpy old man and his neighbours, his relationship with his neighbours. He gets kind of accidentally sucked into being friends with this family that moves in next door that he didn't really want to. He kind of resists it and actually end up forming this really lovely friendship. And then we also get flashbacks to his life growing up and his marriage. And it was completely heartbreaking in so many ways, but just a lovely insight into a life and into the kind of people that we might not ever talk to and what they might be capable of and what might be going through their heads and going on in their lives. Fredrik Backman, he's just great. He's got a way with words. So, would you look at that? Exactly 35. I don't have to get rid of anything from my TBR this month, and I really think this experiment is almost coming to an end because I'm doing so well. Look at those shelves behind me. It now looks like the third shelf is filled again, but that is because I cleared it of my TBR. So now I've just added other books to it because my other bookshelves were getting too full. So my TBR is now just the top 2 shelves, aside from a little pile of the ones I'm currently reading, but we're not really counting those. Do I want to just keep going to the end of the year? If I go to December the 1st, I would then have 20 books on the 1st of December, and then always get loads of new books over Christmas time, so then I could fill it back up a bit. Maybe I'll make December the 1st my last one. What I could do is go back to doing balancing the books and just keeping the numbers equal, because I no longer really need to get rid of a lot. But 35 is still quite a lot. I don't know, what do you guys think? What do you think would be a good number to get my TBR down to, and then I would feel completely satisfied? Let me know, and also give this video a thumbs up if you like the Balancing the Books format, and let me know if you've been doing anything similar. I always like watching what you guys have done. And of course, do subscribe to this channel because I post new videos every Friday. See you next time!